You're listening to the Simple Growth Podcast, the show that helps business owners get their life back. Here's your host, Mike Callahan.
Welcome back to the SA Weekly Talk Show. Mike Callahan here with my co-host Cody Owen from Service Autopilot. Special guest returning by popular demand, Brian Stearman from Modern Marketing Mechanic. Brian is going to be introducing some really earth-shattering things that are happening right now in Google. So Google My Business and the Google Guarantee. What does that mean for your home service business? Is it something you should be aware of, or is it something you should just ignore and it's going to only be a fad? So Brian's here to break down the newest editions of Google My Business and the Google Guarantee. Brian, if no one has ever seen the SA Weekly Talk Show and doesn't have a background on it, if you don't mind just giving us a quick background of what you do and how you cut your teeth, and we'll kind of dive right into this topic here, because I know a lot of people have been asking about it in the SA ecosystem.
Yep. So my name is Brian Stearman. I'm a modern marketing mechanic and lawn care marketing mechanic. We've been running that for several years. We primarily work for the vast majority of our customer base is lawn care businesses. And we basically do website design, build, search engine optimization, and then paid advertisement management. That's pretty much this business. Before this, I used to own a lawn care business. That's why I have so many lawn care businesses, because I used to own that business and sold it. So that's kind of my history with it. So you want me to just dive into Google My Business, or?
Yeah, brother, the floor is yours. I know the landscape is changing, and I'll be honest with you, it's something that I haven't had time to keep my pulse on. So one of the main reasons is, as an expert with these things, all things SEO and Google and some of the other stuff you're doing, you definitely are a huge asset to the ecosystem here. So yeah, definitely the floor is yours, and if you want us to chime in, we're happy to. But we're just looking to see what's going on with Google right now.
Okay, so last week, Google My Business, which if you're not familiar with what Google My Business is, that's like if you do a search for lawn care or whatever, Google My Business are the map listings of businesses. So they typically display 3 to 4 of them. And they'll typically have either a click to call or a click to the website type link. And then for like brick and mortar businesses, it has their address. For most of the audience here, they probably own service area businesses where they provide services at homes. So those are, geared towards, whatever their service area market is. So Google My Business in the last couple of years has kind of been gearing towards more paid services throughout their platform. One of them being local service ads. Obviously, they've been doing Google ads for quite some time. And now it appears that Google My Business is also going to become one of their paid platforms. And they're doing that. They've been testing it really since last year sometime. We saw it. But we really only saw it in like California and at really high-end industries. And so now, as of last week, they started offering it to service area type businesses in select markets. At this point, it's by invitation only. So basically, you have to log into your Google My Business in order to see the invitation from Google. And basically what it is and kind of what it looks like right now is you are already Google guaranteed. So if you're running ads on the Google local services, those appear to be the ones that are going to get the invitations first. So if you're not signed up to those, that might be something that you want to look into. But the Google guarantee on Google My Business is currently, what they're running right now is $50 a month to get that badge on your Google My Business list. So when someone pulls up Google My Business, or they do a search, they're yes, okay. So the top 3, those are your local service ads. And you see that Google guarantee, the little green check mark.
Nice.
That's the so that's the ad itself. And then if you look down below, there'll be Google guarantee in those map listings as well. So it's not, what the example you brought up doesn't have it yet. But eventually you'll have several competitors with that having that Google guarantee. And obviously, if you're paying $50 a month, there's expectation that you're going to appear higher in those map results based on that subscription. So the big question becomes, okay, so once 5, 10 companies get Google guaranteed listings and they're paying that $50 a month subscription to Google, how is Google going to determine who's next, who's first, right? Who's first, who's second, who's third? And and so we don't have clear direction from Google. Honestly, Google hasn't done a public announcement on it yet. We expect that probably next week. They start rolling stuff out and they just tell us when they want us to know. But obviously we kind of watch what's going on. So, we've seen several people that gotten those requests and are paying $50. So the expectation is the next important thing with Google My Business is going to be, so logging into the platform, using their platform. So one way to do that is to get more reviews, respond to all the reviews that you do get, good or bad. And then find other ways to use their platform. So they have posts, there's messaging, there's a lot of ways that you can use Google My Business. And now that they have an app for it, you can download it on your phone and engage with reviews and things like that from your phone as well. So those are the things that you can definitely do to try to basically improve how you rank on Google Maps once you have the Google guarantee. The other way is through what's called citations, just making sure that your information is accurate across the internet for your website.
So Brian, question about what does the Google guarantee mean for, like, on the consumer side? What are they seeing that is representing?
Yeah, so when you sign up to be Google guaranteed, or you Google local services or whatever, so there's a process that you have to go through. So basically you have to go through a background check for your business. So for any type of industry that you're entering the home, you may also have to, depending on, it's sad, but there's not a straightforward, everyone's going to have to get background checked. But we've seen in certain markets, Google require that the employees get background checked in addition to the owner. Like in lawn care, it's almost always just the owner of the company, and then they verify the business. So they're verifying that you have insurance, that you have a business license, basically just verifying you're a legitimate business. And then you have to sign some agreements with Google Guarantee. And those basically allow for arbitration and no class action lawsuits and things like this, just basically protecting themselves and basically saying that if someone does not like your service, that you will refund the price. So you have to abide by their policies, and those policies vary depending on what industry it is. So there's some fine print that you'll need to read just to know, if someone comes back to Google and says, I wasn't happy with this service, what is the requirement on your end? And that's very based on what industry you're in.
And then on the business owner side, so I'm paying $50 a month and I'm getting the green check mark, hopefully coming up higher in listings. Is there anything else that we know that we're getting out of it right now?
Yeah, no. At this point, that's pretty much it. And I mean, from a digital marketing side of things, I think most digital marketing owners are a fan of this. I mean, the pay-to-play system gets rid of a lot of garbage because Google historically has done a very poor job filtering out inaccurate listings and fake listings. So there was a time when every SEO would go out there and we would get 15 listings, one for every city you were in. We would call on care Los Angeles, lawn care, San Diego, lawn care, whatever, every little suburb that you had. And we had tons of Google My Business listings, so you would show up. And these days, those all just get suspended. And Google hasn't done a good job of actually cleaning up. So there's a lot of garbage listings out there. And there's also a lot of lead generation type companies out there that still have Google My Business listings, and they're just not going to pay and go through the background check. They're not going to make the process of becoming Google guaranteed. And I think this is one of the ways that Google's trying to improve the quality of the listings that are on Google My Business.
Interesting. So Brian, as we're looking at that,
and you're also going to get rid of a lot of smaller companies.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a bit of delay on my end. But Brian, earlier you mentioned so basically the process here is it looks like they may be driving some folks to literally just interact with the business right off of Google. Almost probably similar to like Facebook, trying to keep everybody on their platform. Click to call, click to quote. Is there any? Would you mind expanding on that? What you're at least you're envisioning as an expert to happen here in the next few months?
Yeah. So Google's they haven't come out and said it, but they pretty much want to go as much as they can to what's a 0-click search, which basically means if I type in lawn care in a city, that the ideal situation is for you to click on one of those local service ads or on Google My Business, and you connect directly with the company. That you're not going down and clicking on a website and doing research and things like that. They want to get traffic from a paid platform on Google for you to get your business directly from them. That's why there's like, if you do certain searches, there's like these little knowledge cards where they basically, if you ask a question in Google, it'll answer the question in the search result without ever having to look at the actual website. It's like a little snippet from a website. And so much information. I mean, same thing, like if you go book a flight, you type in, like I live in Northwest Arkansas. If I type in XNA to Dallas, I land on American Airlines or Delta. I land on Google's little search box that says you can book an American Airlines flight for X dollars, Delta for this, whatever. And that's the direction Google's going. They want you to do business with them. And American Airlines and Delta and all these other providers are paying for that list in their knowledge card that they're providing. And that's the direction they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're a service business owner at this point, Brian, is there certain things, if we haven't been really engaged with our Google business listing or Google My Business, that we should be doing proactively right now to get ready for this technology shift? I know one of the, and you actually mentioned it, which is interesting. So the first time I met Jonathan Potoshnik of the Lawn Care Millionaire co-founder of Service Autopilot is his lawn care business, City Turf, when they went in and dominated that Frisco and Plano area, and the other areas they serviced, they did just that. Jonathan was intelligent enough to see that shift in technology. So they had bought separate landing pages for every service and every suburb they basically had serviced. And from what I remember, I may be a little off exaggerating, but I believe you had to go to the third page of Google organically to find his next competitor, because he had built and optimized that so much that you literally had to go 2 or 3 pages back to even find somebody else. Now, obviously, those days are gone, but an expert like yourself here kind of seeing the shift like Jonathan saw. The shift probably already starting to happen. What should we be doing to get a hold of that shift and be ahead of our competitors? And is there anything we can do proactively?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is go get reviews. That seems to be the biggest factor that Google is using when it comes to ranking My Business. And when you start looking at this paid model, it's the only thing Google owns. Like, so citations, links to your website, things like that, they have no control over. But reviews on their platform matter because they control them. They determine who can leave them. They have some true capabilities of knowing what's authentic and what's not. And they're going to use that data over anything else. And I mean, Google recently, I say recently, within the last 2 years, they did away with non-logged in reviews. Like you used to be able to go click on a business and leave a review and not be logged into Google. And those days are over. you have to have a legitimate profile on Google, and you have to use that profile to leave a review now. And so they're basically verifying those reviews to people. And then they're also able to see, obviously, from the IP address, where those people are that are leaving the reviews. So I'm not a fan of review schemes. Don't go ask your 100 lawn care buddies to go leave you a review from, all over the United States, because that's not going to do anything for you. You want to go ask a bunch of friends, that's fine. It's probably not within the policies, but at least they're local to your business. And that's what's going to drive those numbers and really show that, is that people that have actually engaged with your business in a meaningful way left you a review. And I know in the service industry, it's hard to get people to leave you a review. You have to ask. That's the bottom line. You have to send them an email. You have to send them a text. You have to ask them on the phone. It's, a review is, everyone's been to a car dealership, and what's the last thing they tell you before they shake your hand and walk you out the door? Hey, if I get anything less than 10 on any of these, I failed, right? So they're going to send you the review. They're setting it up. They're asking for that review. And a lawn care business, a cleaning company, they need to do that same thing. Maybe not quite as pushy as the used car salesman, but they still need to ask.
Brian, can I run an idea past you?
Yeah.
So one thing that I like in just my normal consumer lifestyle of interacting with various businesses, I find the way that I am compelled to leave a review for a business is when the employee that I've interacted with specifically asks me to mention their name in the review because they get, some reward or whatever for being mentioned. Is that a strategy you've seen people using that you think is effective? I just know that it always guilts me into leaving a review.
Well, and so the more personal the ask, the better off you are. So, I always find that cleaning companies and plumbers and HVACs companies, they have the easiest route because they have someone standing face to face with the customer and they built some type of relationship. If your air conditioner breaks and you call someone, there's a personal love relationship when that air conditioner turns on, right? Because it's 100 degrees outside, it's 85 in your house, and now all of a sudden the air conditioner works, and I'll be happy to leave you a review because I'm going to sleep better tonight, right? So, and the same thing with cleaning companies. They're inside the house. The homeowner went from a dirty home to a clean home. They can smell it, that kind of thing. So as personal as you can make it, a lot of times we see people using pictures. I know Quality Driven does that. Some other platforms take the picture of the tech and put it on the request. So that's one way of doing it. You could do that with a lawn mowing crew or something like that to where it feels more personal because, a lot of, especially with the lawn care guys, most of their customers don't really have contact with the guys out in the yard. They might see the truck pull up and a bunch of people in uniform running around the yard, and then they leave. But there's really not much conversation and no personal relationship there. But yeah, I totally agree that the more personal you can make the ask, the better response you'll probably get.
So Brian, on the flip side of that, it's something comes up every day. I just saw another one in a private cleaning group today. I just got a bad review. I can't make the person happy. They're crazy. I've gone up and beyond. Has the approach to a bad review in responding professionally, has that changed? Is there certain things we can do proactively now with Google kind of filtering these to actually protest a bad review that's not even legitimate? Biggest thing was in this Facebook group, which I think honestly we saw a lot of Callahans too, not on a large scale. What we saw occasionally is people literally would get the service done and then act like they were literally unhappy. You'd go there, the job was fine, but they basically would say, "I'm going to give you a bad review unless you give me a discount or refund all my money." So how do you handle a legitimate a legitimate complaint? What's best practice? And B, on the flip side, what if you got scammed by somebody, you did a great job, and they're just saying, you know what, either you give me a discount or a refund, or I'm gonna slander you around town. is there any recourse?
Right. Okay, so I'll deal with the first part of that. How do you deal with a legitimate negative complaint? So the biggest thing, business, we take things very personal, especially when someone attacks us, our people in our business. So the first thing that I recommend is probably breathe a minute, and then do not address the problem online. You do not want to air your opinions, their opinions back and forth. You want to basically stand by your guarantee. So whatever you publish on your website, whatever you talk about when you're signing up customers, like, hey, we offer 100% guarantee. Sorry you had a bad experience. Call the office and specifically ask for me, and we will take care of your situation. And that does two things. One, it stops the attack online. And two, it tells people that are looking at reviews, making a buying decision, that this owner may not get it right 100% of the time, but they're absolutely going to stand behind their work, and they're going to address my problem if I have one. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the most important thing that you can do online. But don't sit there and go, well, we did this and they did this and that, because that turns into a bad deal, very bad deal. And now, as far as negative or false reviews, so first of all, I'll address one that we see common, which is employees.
You nailed it.
So
Yep.
Google, Facebook, or I should say, former employees. Facebook and Google both have policies that employees cannot leave reviews. And so all you have to do is dispute the review, file a help desk ticket. So different platforms have different ways of dealing with it. You show them proof that they were an employee, and they will remove the review. That's good. And then, so the other issue becomes the former employees' friends that left you a negative review. Those are harder to get rid of depending on how they go about leaving the review. So obviously, if they mention the employee, Google's pretty good about going ahead and removing that review. Otherwise, you can dispute it. You can file a help desk ticket. You can send them a customer list and try to get it off. But at the end of the day, it's the discretion of whoever's behind the help desk at Google and Facebook to determine whether or not they're going to remove that review. So, you're pretty much at that mercy. I mean, there's going to be some crap. I mean, let's face it. I mean, your competitors, your former employees, and then just upset, irrational customers that, as opposed to leaving you one negative review, have 10 of their friends leave you a negative review, all concerning the same issue. So, it's literally just go through the process, do what you can. But the easiest solution to 10 negative reviews is 100 positive reviews. So consistently ask for the reviews, and your average will be fine.
So if I'm a service business owner and I'm looking at it, some of the ones I just pulled up here in my local market, just for an example, we've got some that are on the high 4 end. None of them really had a 5. I've got other ones that are a little bit before a 4. It was interesting. Let me just actually loop back here. I was curious because so I've got one at a 4.7, a 4.1. I've got one as low as a 3.3 with a Google guarantee. Is there a certain threshold that we're seeing that doesn't allow the Google guarantee, or are you just paying and they're approving?
So Google guarantees a paid service, right?
I'm just curious. Is there a threshold though?
The only millionaires by turning
you pay for
yeah, so I haven't seen I'm sure there's a point at which Google may say, nope, you're not going to be a Google guaranteed provider. But I haven't seen it. Obviously if they're at a 3.3, that's a pretty bad rating, to have that kind of guarantee badge. And that's why I think that reviews are going to play such a huge part in the Google guaranteed badge. Obviously, if you're looking at 3 different companies that have Google guaranteed badges, and one has 4.8, one has 4.0, and one has 3.3, who are you calling?
Oh yeah, I was just curious. Is there a level that you need to play by? I mean, or
if they haven't, I haven't seen it.
Okay. So I guess it's kind of a loaded question, but what would you say? I mean, obviously you're going to get some negative reviews, and all negative reviews aren't bad if you respond to them exactly like Brian's talking about. Where, I guess, as an expert in SEO in different things, Google, what are you seeing as a kind of like a benchmark or a threshold? Like if you're a 4, like a below a 4, are you in the danger zone? What do we need to be striving for to bare minimal to really drive that traffic and that click through?
So I feel like anything over like a 4.2, 4.3 is an acceptable, star rating. The biggest issue that I see is quantity. It's one thing to have a 4.8 and have 2 reviews. If you have 4.8 or 4.6 and 150 reviews, that speaks volumes to a potential buyer.
Okay. And would you think that eventually maybe that algorithm that Google's running there may favor that average? Maybe it's going to be smart enough to say, oh, there's only 2 versus 100 or 200 here.
Right. Yeah. If you have 1 review, you essentially haven't done your work. I mean, anyone using Service Autopilot, SimpleGrowth, us, you've been in business long enough to have more than 20 reviews. Like, I mean, unless you're just starting out, you should have more reviews. Almost every company I can say you should have more reviews than you do. And the reason you don't is because you're not asking. It's just the way it is. I mean, business owners, they want the reviews, but most of them aren't willing to put in the effort necessary. And that's where automations come into play and say, hey, let's find a way to automate this process to request reviews from customers, because we have to, going into the next 5 years, the foreseeable future, you have to have a good reputation online. And I mean, there's platforms out there that I hate. We'll start with Yelp. But they, they're a necessity to ranking your website and gaining trust with your customers.
You just dropped a 4-letter word. We're probably going to get censored on that. The YELP. I still have nightmares of Yelp. But yeah, it definitely, do you think some of this is actually going to play into voice search as that starts to evolve or is evolving?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, if you look at, as much as I don't like that 4-letter word, that's the review platform that Apple uses. So just something, you can hate it all you want, but as long as Apple's using it as Safari's primary review source, it's something that you probably ought to at least entertain the idea. I wouldn't pay those people, but you might try to at least have a decent reputation on there. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think reviews are going to get moved out of the equation, especially with voice search, because voice search really becomes, if you ask Siri, and I'll mute Siri so she doesn't answer me. But if you ask Alexa or Siri or whoever, what's the best lawn care company, or what's the best cleaning company, or anything like that, voice search typically delivers one result. It doesn't give you a list of here's the top 3 lawn care companies in my market. It's here's this one company. And so if you're asking those types of questions like a normal person would ask it, what's the best? Well, how do you determine what the best is? Most likely by the number and star rating of a company from their reviews. So, I mean, that's the logical answer, right? So, you know, that's, you know, we don't really know what voice is going to do. It's kind of a new thing, new play. The rules change with it every couple of weeks with schema markup and all kinds of things. But you know, it's obviously going to play a part in the future.
Awesome, Brian. Well, I know you've got a very compressed schedule, but I think the key takeaways, at least for myself, is Google My Business. Get in that account, dive in there, interact with it, see if you actually got an invite to play. From what I'm hearing, I'm sold $50 a month as a game changer. Let's just do it. Let's get ahead of it. And to drive that relevancy, we need reviews and positive reviews. And our negative reviews, we need to follow up in a systematic way. We take the conversation offline, but go in and reinforce in a very non-emotional way. And I'm going to recommend a 24 to 48 hour period, because I know at least in upstate New York snow removal, if you could turn online reviews off during the winter, you would be better off. Obviously you couldn't, but we had negative reviews that we dropped the plow too loud in the middle of the night. The neighbor was hammering us because they could hear the plow scraping snow out. Well, it wasn't even us. It was the city plow. So, I mean, there was just some obscene reviews that were just, they defied logic. But I guess after you kind of calm down and you got some sleep, you could go in there and at least acknowledge your guarantee. And if it was something you did or didn't even do, you need to have that conversation with that client or even the crazy person across the street. But Brian, great advice. I mean, take that offline. Don't have a battle.
Bonus tip on removing the emotion from it. Write a pretty standard negative review response that includes taking the conversation offline, encouraging them to call in. Those should all, I mean, it's acknowledge their like specific complaint if there's something specific, but the bulk of it you could just copy and paste. That way you don't have to think about it. You don't have to like sit there and begrudgingly type out this thing that you're, you know, angry about.
Yeah, and I like that idea, Cody, too, because a lot of times I'd catch myself on my phone trying to respond to one of those in the middle of the night after sleeping 2 days in a row, and you're just frustrated. And then in the lack of sleep, there'd end up being a lot of typos in there and things like that. So obviously, you don't only want to present yourself professionally, but grammatically, you actually want to be professional as well. So I think standardizing that script is obviously a really, really good idea. And just some minor tweaks. Have somebody proofread it. Send it to one of the people that you know. Have them look at it before you send it out, because the way you interpret that, because you wrote it, could be completely different than somebody online's interpretation. So definitely respond, but give it that 24-hour rule. So Cody, any closing thoughts, questions? Brian, any questions, thoughts on Google My Business and the new game?
I'm excited to see people get in there and start playing with it and see what happens.
Awesome. Well, SA Weekly Talk Show, we got Martha Woodward of Quality Driven Software coming up next week at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central. Brian, really appreciate every time you come on here and drop another knowledge bomb for the SA community. Hopefully conference season opens up a little bit. We'll see you come in the coming months. I'm going through non-travel withdrawal right now, or travel withdrawal, not seeing everybody in live person. So obviously, we're just going to keep on doing our thing here online until we can open it up in person. So next week, Martha Woodward, Quality Driven Software, right here in the SE Weekly Talk Show. Until next week, I want to thank co-host Cody Owen and special guest Brian Stearman of Modern Marketing Mechanic.
If you like this show, you might want to check out our resources at www.startsimplegrowth.com. While you're there, enter to win an estimator chatbot. Mike Callahan is available for private coaching.